Good evening. My name is Soini Gray. Welcome to this CNC3 News special discussion on the way forward for Carnival 2021. Last Monday, the Prime Minister made a statement essentially confirming what many had been saying for months. Actually, let me let him say it in his own words.
I heard about Carnival. Ladies and gentlemen, in 72 hours we'd be in October. And if at this time in October we are still in the throes of a pandemic, it would be madness to be talking about Carnival in February. I see no future for Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago in the months ahead. And today I can put everybody on notice that unless there's some dramatic wind that will blow across us, whereby Christmas pandemic would have been a thing of the past, Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago in 2021 is not on. Picture Juve morning, but with the coronavirus still a major issue, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the world around us. It's just not on.
So you've heard the Prime Minister, unless something dramatic happens by Christmas, the Carnival as we know it is over, at least for 2021. So where does that leave us? Well, for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to talk to the people whose work is Carnival, our music, our mass, our culture, to find out. And we begin with the music. Joining me for this discussion is soca star, music manager, and all-round boss lady, Fay-Ann Alvarez. She is a Road March title holder, a multiple Soca Monarch winner who has turned around and produced the event. Who better to talk to about refashioning a soca strategy for a carnival like no other? Joining her would be Duvone Stewart, who is a multiple Panorama winning arranger for the Renegade Steel Orchestra. He's also arranged for Defense Force Steel Orchestra in the small band category and for Pan Elders, which is a medium band. In fact, last year, the Trinidad Guardian called him Duvone Stewart the Great because in 2019, he captured the Panorama Triple Crown by winning in all three categories. So who better to join this conversation about our music potential under COVID-19 restrictions? Fay-Ann Alvarez and Duvone, thank you so much for being here. I want to start with Fay-Ann Alvarez. As a soca artist, how is the pandemic affecting your business?
For a while, we've been affected by a number of things that the industry has been coping with because there were mechanisms in place for us to overlook some of the natural situations and issues that would have arisen coming out of the progression of the industry. What COVID has done, it's not only brought new things, but it's made us realize that the things that we did not fix in the past are now coming back to really bite us in the butt, so to speak.
And what are some of those things that you're referring to?
For instance, airplay. I mean, I know there's the whole issue of to release or to not release. That is the question. And for artists like myself, we have no problem releasing. As you know, I write, Bungie writes, there are a bunch of other artists that also write. So the aspect of releasing new music is not the problem. I think what many people don't understand is there's a process to actually producing a song. People need to be paid. And it costs money to produce every single song that you do. There's mixing, there's mastering, there's the production, there's the printing and the distribution of that said particular track. And this is per track. It's not, you do a bunch of songs and you send all of them out. There are a bunch of people that come together to actually put one song on the radio or in rotation.
Can I ask something about the production? Can I ask something about the production of music? Yes. For a normal carnival, you would produce how many songs?
This year I did almost 10 songs.
So is it possible, is it feasible to maybe produce 5 instead, and maybe it will have more space because there aren't, you know, we don't expect there will be feds, we don't expect people will be on the road. So I guess we will not have a market for maybe 10 songs per artist. But is it feasible financially for you to at least do 5 or less? Talk to me about that.
I think the feasibility is not the problem. I think when you're doing something and you don't really have a target for what you're doing, that is the problem. We could release music every single day for the whole year. The problem is, how do you get airplay? How do you monetize what you're releasing? For instance, nobody wants to show up at a job and realize that you can't get paid from that particular job. You'll just be outside of the building. There's no work inside of the building. So we have the product. We just need to make sure that there's a way to monetize the product, because there's no longer any live events. So you can't perform in a party and get paid. How do you capitalize on the streams? A lot of the platforms that we would have been able to utilize are not available in our region. And a lot of the structure that we would have overlooked, because the live performance took precedence back in the earlier part of the year. Now we have to realize that putting things in place, from copyrights to streaming rights to all these different things, that's a big logistical move, and you need a lot of people to come together to make the decisions that could help the artists be able to capitalize off their work online. We are going into a digital situation where downloads and streams are where you can look to monetize your product. When you do not have the tools and mechanisms and the things in place to capitalize on that, you're literally going to be putting music out into the atmosphere with no real way of capitalizing on what you put out.
So what is required for us to try and capitalize on in the digital sphere from your perspective?
Well, there are a lot of platforms that I think we could be utilizing, not just from we sign onto social media and we do stuff. I mean, we do not contact the movers and shakers of the music industry globally. There is no real connection between Trinidad's movers and shakers and the movers and shakers internationally. For instance, Versus is a platform that's been creating a lot of energy online. We saw the result of Beanie Man and Bounty Killer's clash online, and we saw the ripple effect it had in the musical atmosphere after the clash was done. So it didn't just reap benefits for that particular point in time of the clash. It actually reaped benefits for them with respect to Spotify and all these different placements of songs going forward. CNN covered, there were mainstream media covering, there were utilization of platforms that would not have normally been available to them, because the words of the music was seen, and not just seen from a live performance aspect. It was seen from the amount of attention they generated online. That's what we need to get to. So the releasing of the music is one part, but you can't put people to perform in a virtual zone and you don't have an audience for them. They'll be performing to nobody. They'll be creating beautiful product and nobody there to see it.
That's a very interesting point, Duvone Stewart. You are a pan arranger. I know Panorama is always trying to refashion their products so that we can get more audiences to the Savannah to watch competition. What kind of concern do you have about the space for steel band in Carnival 2021?
Well, first to begin, change is something that we don't really embrace much here in Trinidad and Tobago. This pandemic that we're going through right now is more about finding our real purpose, finding the time to recalibrate, to come with some new perspective or some new creative ideas to bring forward to the table to market steel pan and even the whole culture aspects in Trinidad and Tobago, the mass, the calypso. As Fay-Ann was in depth, she was just hitting everything possibly said, that we need to take time to tap into every single avenue that is there available for us to market the product properly. And it's a time for us to sit back and ask the questions, are we really doing enough to make our music out there, recognize that these people could respect that what we do for a living?
So Duvone, can I ask you that question? Are we doing enough to make our music internationally appealing, especially the steel pan?
No, we're not doing enough. Panorama is an event that takes place every year with approximately time zone of 6 to 8 hours. Who is going to take the responsibility to market something with 6 to 8 hours of just pan playing every single carnival season? It's not a marketable tool. It's just something that causes a monotony. It's just a monotonous situation that we go through every single year, because at the end of the day, it's a revenue for Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, but is it a marketable tool to sell to the world? No, nobody's not going to invest in that big time. So that being said, this pandemic, as I said before, is just to reflect, is just to embrace the word change, and for us to ask ourselves the questions that if we are really ready to come to the forefront, to put these new creative ideas and to put these platforms into full use. As she said, Versus is a big thing outside. PD Man, Bounty Killer, John Legend, Alicia Keys, and they had the thing going on. They had over countless amounts of people was on the live, listening, viewing, participating.
Do you think there's a possibility for Panorama with a digital platform like that? Can we have a steel pan Versus? Because I mean, pan fans are the most passionate, are some of the most passionate. So surely there's a digital market that we can tap in for Panorama in some way.
But then again, too, competition is something that kills culture in Trinidad.
I'm not saying that we need to have a competition, though.
But then again, Panorama is a competition. We could have a showcase where we could have all the bands do something virtually, which was done in London for the Notting Hill Carnival, for the Pan, for the Calypso, and for Mass. It was being done. We see it, we saw it, and then we're supposed to be leaders in our own culture, in the culture aspect, and have other countries that doing the same, doing what we're supposed to do, set that trend, set that mood, set that ambience, and doing things properly that we can market the thing properly. Panorama is just one part. After Panorama, what is there for us in the steel pan fraternity? There's nothing for us there. So we need to tap into every single thing that is out there for us to be available to market the tool properly.
Fay-Ann, when you hear Duvone saying that we need to be the leaders and the innovators, and he talks about there's room for innovation in Panorama. I mean, in 2019, when you produced Soca Monarch, you essentially revived a dying brand. What would you do if you had to be in charge of a Panorama or Soca Monarch or even Dimashka? Because you know Dimashka is also pretty controversial.
I think one of the key things that we do not understand in respect to marketing is networking.
Sure.
We have this clutch the culture to your chest is beating type of thing, and if you look at now, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything. I'm just saying because I'm exposed to different cultures, you tend to see from behind the scenes and from in front on the stage and how the cake is baked. When you look at the Jamaican culture, they capitalize on everything from food to if it have a sports person doing something, they rally behind that person, to if it have a designer, to the woman who's going up for VP in the US, they've already changed the White House menu to a whole Jamaican line of cuisine. And that's what they're saying, Biden and they're going to be eating. That's the kind of energy that we need to put behind our own culture. Because when people see us, they see us as the creators, the innovators, the pioneers, the people that's supposed to. We have the unique opportunity right now, as Duvone was saying, the monotony to break it. We have the unique opportunity right now to show the world that Trinidad Carnival has nothing to do with the revelry that you see on the street. In fact, the people who are most vocal, they are most vocal about the parts of the Carnival that they don't like. Because unfortunately for them, there are parts of Carnival that they do not understand, nor do they see. They don't see the people who push the pan, they're working. They don't see the people who paint the pan, they're working. They don't see the people who tune the pan. Just like in our industry, they don't see the hairstylists, they don't see the makeup artists, they don't see the nail techs, they don't see the designers, the dancers, the production people, the people who come and just help you, the assistants. There are tons of people that go towards making a product, an artist, a band. The band don't just wake up and put pan together and everybody reach on stage. There's a process, and there's a tedious process that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of dedication and sometimes a lot of money from people who fuel this particular project themselves without any sort of external injection of money. So for an industry to move forward, we need to recognize the importance of the industry. If we don't see the importance of the industry, we could sit and have 15 million discussions, call in all the experts, get all the information, do all the statistical data and put it up, and then it will just be right there because we do not understand how important Carnival is. And anybody that you're having a discussion with that is talking about the end result of Carnival, meaning the Monday and the Tuesday, it's a waste of time to have a discussion with them because they don't see the before that. They don't see the cleaners, they don't see the food vendors, they don't see the people who come in and set up the venue.
So Fay-Ann, you say we don't understand how important Carnival is to us. Realistically, what do you think Carnival 2021 is going to look like from your standpoint?
Here's what I think will happen. I don't know what it's going to look like because I don't have a crystal ball. But what I do know is this. In May, I started a project, which I can't speak about it now, but when it come out, people will realize, okay, that's the project she was talking about. And I was trying to do something. But this one's big. So in May, I started a project, and I reached out to 9 Caribbean countries. 9. St. Lucia, I spoke to ministers from St. Lucia, I spoke to ministers from Barbados in the culture ministry. I spoke to people from Dominica, St. Vincent, Antigua, and St. Lucia, ministers who are in, and I was networking with them and discussing their participation in the project that we're doing. I also spoke to people in the ministry for Trinidad and Tobago. And I can tell you that if we don't find a way to create something in 2021 that says to the world, this is us, and we're not just a physical carnival people, we are mentally creative carnival people. There is a ton of countries that are sitting down waiting for us to slip. You cannot stay the king if you don't do kingly things. Carnival is not just a jump and wave and a wine and a party for now. It is a tourism aspect that is used to market the country, just like sport. Yeah. And to not entertain any discussions with people who are on the ground, like Duvone, and people like Duvone and myself, the artists that actually, we travel the globe. We are on the planes, we are on the ground with these different carnival bodies. We are on the ground.
I hate to interrupt you, but I'm running out of time. But I really, really like that point. We cannot claim to be a king if we're not doing king things. I think that's a very important point upon which to end this particular segment. And I want to thank you and Duvone Stewart for joining me for that first part of the conversation where we focused on the music industry. Let's take a short break and we'll come back with more in a few.
As the numbers rise, economies have choked. Entire countries shut down. A health crisis triggered by a global pandemic has brought unexpected social and economic hardship. COVID-19 has already cost Trinidad and Tobago $5 billion, but the lives and livelihoods of ordinary people have suffered the most. How will the finance minister budget for a pandemic in an economy infected by COVID-19? With some difficult decisions ahead, join CNC3 on Monday, 5th October, Budget Day, for extensive coverage throughout the day. Budget 2021, the COVID pandemic response.
Make sure you have yourself a great investment week by viewing The Boss Report every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. during CNC3's The Morning Brew. You'll get sound financial advice whether you're a new or experienced investor when you view The Boss Report. CNC3, covering your world.
I just talked to my mother.
You did what? Vanessa met with you?
Teresa, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Only on CNC3.
Crash Class! Welcome to Crash Class, where you can learn anything. Law for the layman, medical, dental, academics, and general topics, anywhere without limits. Are you tired of being left behind? Let us burn their labels, bury self-doubt on CNC3 every Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. We learn by association, not in isolation. Crash Class!
Missed the 7 p.m. news? Well, CNC3 is giving you another way to stay up to date with everything you need to know.
Join us for the CNC3 Primetime News at 9 p.m. 30 minutes of the latest news and a look at the big events of the next day. You'll also get a recap of the day's sports
and the forecast you need to start the next day prepared for any weather.
Fast, up-to-the-minute news, sports and weather.
No fluff, no frills. just the news you need to know.
CNC3 Primetime News. Weekdays at 9 p.m. on CNC3.
As the numbers rise, economies have choked. Entire countries shut down. A health crisis triggered by a global pandemic has brought unexpected social and economic hardship. COVID-19 has already cost Trinidad and Tobago $5 billion, but the lives and livelihoods of ordinary people have suffered the most. How will the finance minister budget for a pandemic in an economy infected by COVID-19? With some difficult decisions ahead, join CNC3 on Monday, 5th October, Budget Day, for extensive coverage throughout the day. Budget 2021, the COVID pandemic response.
This is more than just music. This is where you find the best of TNT. This is more than just a vibe. This is where Bollywood gets a twist. This is more than just energy. This is Bhangra and indie pop too. This is the mix. This is the life. Lock on or log on now. Sangeet 106.1 FM. This is authentic East Indian radio. This is us.
That is the Soca Monarch 2020. I would judge there with his winning song, The Stage Gone Bad. Welcome back to our special discussion on Carnival 2021. Before the break, we looked at the musical side of our carnival. Joining me now via Zoom is independent mask maker Makeda Thomas of the Belmont Baby Dolls. Thomas says she reimagines the traditional mask portrayal to address pressing social issues in modern Trinidad and Tobago. And we also have Valmiki Maharaj, who is the creative director of Lost Tribe. The band has continued to make a name for itself on the local carnival scene and is routinely hailed for elevating the standard for pretty masks. Makeda and Valmiki, thank you so much for joining us. A few weeks ago, I spoke to Michael Roberts. He came out in full costume for Notting Hill Carnival and went viral. And he has me thinking realistically. Some aspects of our carnival cannot be converted into a digital format, and I think Masquerade might be one of those parts. Makeda, Valmiki, any one of you, what do you think? Val?
Well, I will jump in first to say that Michael was my absolute spirit. When I saw the videos of him on the street, so Yini, I agree with you 100%. There is something about us touching the road, us being around each other, just cannot be, it can't be replaced, it can't be reproduced, which I think has made me during this time feel even more grand and special about what our product is. And I think that has actually given me the encouragement to work towards products for 2021 that complement our Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, complement our experience, and that could be used to market 2022. Because touching the road is touching the road.
Well, it's funny because I also interviewed the chairman of Notting Hill Carnival, Matthew Phillip, and he said Notting Hill, they didn't have Carnival, they celebrated Carnival, and what they focused on is, you know, having some shows online and also having mini documentaries explaining to people what they're doing. Makeda, you and I spoke a little earlier, and I think you said you were going along the same route where you're thinking of doing mini documentaries to kind of capture the spirit of the Belmont Baby Dolls.
Absolutely. I think it's important to honor the current social and cultural moment that we are in, and that it's having an effect on all of us as Belmont Baby Dolls, as mothers, as artists, as business people, as workers, and to think really within the context of the digital space in which we have to deliver our performance. And so for us, it means scale. It means reconsidering. Imagine a mini band having to reconsider scale. And so to scale it differently and think about how to deliver it differently. And for us, that particularly manifests as a series of short films and video projects about our work, about our art as a group and as individual artists, and about the history of the mass. And what that does is two things. It leaves space for these improvised, spontaneous performances that I know will emerge from the bodies of the people during Carnival. But it also allows for Belmont Baby Dolls to do other work that we do all year long. So When Dolls Dance is going to be published by Serendipity, which is in Leicester in the UK this month. Earlier this week, I delivered a lecture.
That's a book. When Dolls Dance is a book that you're publishing?
It's a chapter in a book on the practice of dance artists around the Caribbean through its diasporas.
Right.
And then earlier this week, I did a lecture for the Duke University Dance Department on that text and the work and history of the Baby Doll Mass. And around Carnival, I'll be delivering another huge chapter for a big Oxford book on Black dance, which talks about how we engage this as a radical, imaginative performance practice. So
Makeda, it sounds very clearly that you are pivoting from Belmont Baby Dolls, and you're using Carnival 2021 to pivot and refocus on certain messaging aspects of your mass, but in a different way. I want to bring Valmiki back into the conversation, because Valmiki was talking about sitting down and reflecting on the masquerade. Valmiki, what does that mean for Lost Tribe 2021?
Well, we have, and I think I mentioned to you in a conversation before, since just before the first lockdown, when we started seeing the potential of what could potentially happen, we started working on different scenarios, different planning and circumstances that I think could be put into place. One of those things really, as Makeda was saying, was to use 2021 as a year to educate, to inform, and to allow people to see the sides of Carnival that they don't normally see. Fay-Ann mentioned something a little bit earlier in the interview about that as well. You know, like there are so many stakeholders that people don't get